So I'm going to attempt to record a video with the guitar where I'm actually speaking as well, and I'll explain that. I might not be audible in this because my distiller is running, because since today I fasted for the first time, a complete water fast. I've noticed that I've drunk rather more water than usual. My distiller produces about 4 pints of water a day. I think it's pints. It might be litres, I suppose, I'm not quite sure. But it's a reasonable amount of water. But it was really running low, so I thought I'd run the distiller again before tomorrow. At great personal expense. One of the problems that I have with the guitar, well, not a problem, a challenge, is learning how to use a plectrum, because I've never really learned properly, and I'm finding it very interesting and challenging also. So it's difficult to find the strings. I'm used to having them under my fingers as I pick, but now they've moved to new places on the guitar. One thing that's come to my mind, I've noticed that the speaking videos that I've done recently, nobody watches them at all, which is really it's a great blessing and a sign of honor, I think. I don't take it harshly. But it has come to my attention that there are algorithms. It could be that I speak of things that are not welcome. It could be that it's just absolutely boring and annoying to everybody, but I would say in that respect that I haven't seen other content that offers the same perspective. I mean, I might have heard similar perspectives, but I'm not sure much in the Christians, perhaps not. I had a lesser day today because this is, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is my first full fast. And so, well, not so. I mean, I went for a walk, as I've been doing whenever I can, really, in the attempt to become fit, I suppose, or in the process. As I explained earlier on, when I spoke of my awakening, the things that are going to happen will happen, or I will die. There's no middle path here. So fasting and exercise, and I'm enjoying it so much. As I exercise more and more, I begin to feel my muscles stretching and my tendons are becoming looser, and the pain in my joints is decreasing, and it's just an absolute blessing. I'm considering taking a trip to a fairly wild area that I do know of in 2 days' time, when the weather will be nice. And it could be a train trip, or it could be a car trip. It's a place where I used to walk when I was younger, and it's fairly hilly, and I don't think I was quite up to it at a certain point in time. Although I did visit it when I was walking with the witch, and we had a lovely walk up there and a wander around, and so I haven't been back since, and so I thought I might go up there alone, because it's not a prejudice to be alone, it's a good thing. I love the key of A major on the guitar. I've always enjoyed playing. Well, I enjoy playing in all keys, really. It's not the very difficult ones, though. You know, what you have to use a lot of bar chords and difficult fingerings. I'm more of a basic kind of nut player, as I'm sure anybody who can truly play the guitar can see. But you know, I do what I can. And my right hand is the main problem at the moment. Although of course my left hand will become more supple, because this instrument has been neglected, you see, and so my abilities have fallen by the wayside. If you play an instrument, you know, you do need to exercise your fingers, or whatever it is that you use. I remember, I mean, not to make any comparison, of course, but I remember Miles Davis. I read his so-called autobiography, and I can't remember what it's called now. Probably something really obvious, but somebody very kindly gave me the book, and I found it fascinating, or lent it to me, I can't recall, and I found it very interesting. And Miles Davis went through, I think, more than one silent period. He was quite a moody sort of a character, and coming out of his silent period, there was this beautiful kind of reconnecting. I think his silent period was a period of debauchery and very heavy use of narcotics and sexual escapades. I mean, he would have been very revered, I suppose, in the community. He was a wealthy man and a very influential man, of course, Miles Davis. I think people still kneel at his feet. He had this tremendous power and strength, and he communicated it very accurately, very, very powerfully, shall we say. And he had I don't know whether it was several years when he didn't play the trumpet. And when he came back to it, he describes the process of getting his chops back. I'm not sure, I think that's the sort of expression that you can use with brass instruments, although it's probably a bit out of date now. But the embouche, as it's called, you know, the way you have to hold your lips and your mouth and get the pressure necessary to play that instrument, is a matter of extreme finesse, of course. And it can't really be abandoned without losing that ability temporarily, but then it can be regained, you see, by um, assiduous exercise and by the application of power. So, and so it is with an instrument. If you play anything, you will. If you don't play it, your ability will just diminish, and so it becomes more and more difficult. If you walk in your importance, as I always have, and most people do, let's be honest about it, then when you come back to the instrument, you will feel crestfallen because you're not as good as you thought you might be. But once having lost one's self-importance, those things really just don't matter. I wish there was a formula for doing it. I got scared into it in a way. It was a blow, but if it happens, it's a blessing. And one of the ways it can be delivered, of course, is by an adversary. This is why people don't value adversaries enough. They find them irritating. They find that they've got a petty tyrant to deal with in their neighborhood or in their building or next door neighbor. And instead of valuing them, they enter into some sort of conflict with them, which is what, of course, the person in question expects. And so things are played out. But an adversary is a person who is very valuable to you, really. You see, to act as an adversary, to act as a petty tyrant, as it were, is a very tiring and difficult thing to do. These people, of course, can you imagine? Everybody resents them. They tend to sow discord wherever they travel, and they're used to getting a certain type of response to their tactics. I suppose that's why they do them. Whether there's some deeper psychological reason for their attitude, or whether it's a spiritual bondage that has fallen upon them, I cannot say. But if you respond to a petty tyrant in a helpful and a friendly way at all times, and simply don't rise to the bait at all, and just smile, placing reasonable boundaries when necessary, but not adopting any kind of a moral stance in relation to their conduct. It's really none of your business. If you do that, then two things can occur. Either you will defeat the adversary that you have before you, or they will not you will defeat them. They will defeat themselves somehow. They will be swept away. They can't engage you, you see, and so they will be removed. So in a way, you have defeated them in the power. You have used power, or the adversary can participate in the power that has been created, and then you will learn more about the person, whoever it is, and the reasons for their conduct, perhaps, and a connection might be formed. Because the world is not, sometimes it's not revealed to us, you see, why people do certain things. Because in our judgment, we risk jumping to conclusions, and that's a common thing to do. But we all do it, don't we? I'm not criticising anybody. Why not? So on my walk today, I met a Dutch lady, and we walked alongside for quite a long way, and then she picked up a friend of hers, or we picked up a friend of hers who seemed to be sort of Malaysian or Middle Eastern perhaps. And they were both very pleasant, and we walked together, and we walked down the paths through the woods together, and of course I chatted endlessly. I did listen to what was being said mainly, but the one lady was, she seemed, I don't know, they seemed to be not offended by the things that I'd said, but you can never completely say, can you? My ideas aren't exactly mainstream. Um, I didn't conceal the fact that I was a Christian, but I left it to the end of our encounter. I think it needs to be said that one believes the Bible, but for the entirety of our walk, I had referred to power in all matters. So I hadn't identified any particular entity of power. I did mention, on speaking of the New Age movement, that I had concerns about the source of power that was being used by those people, but I also added that people make up their own minds, don't they? It's not my job to syndicate what people can do or can't do. For heaven's sake, that would be the end of that would be the end of all sensible proceedings, wouldn't it? If that were the case. But I did see it as of course, as a meeting of power, because this is exactly what must happen, and a chance encounter is an omen and a moment of power, and power will use these things in some way or another. I don't know in what way or when or how, and perhaps we will have another meeting. I did offer to give my email address, but I think it might have been seen as a bit forward. But the Dutch lady made a note, or mental note at least, of my house address, and said that she would send me a letter, which I'd be very interested to receive. If I get a letter with a return address on it, I shall write back, absolutely. But I won't go round and see her or anything like that. That would be, that's outside of my remit, and I can't actually arrange anything. I have to leave it in her hands. It's difficult being a man in these situations, of course, because sometimes women might think that they're a bit nervous, you might get the wrong idea. I've already said, and people can see, my ugliness and my sort of personal appearance is not something that would recommend me to as suitable company, so I have to rely on forbearance, or you could call it relying on, if I can become a bit more of an eccentric person. I don't know, eccentric people can sometimes get a break.